Justice in these parts ain't blind, son. It just sees what it wants to see. And right now, it wants to see you swing." The deputy's words hung heavy as the creaking gallows rope itself. Josiah Blackwood felt the rough hemp chafe against his neck, a constant, brutal reminder of the hours slipping away. Hang before sunrise, or prove your innocence before the light fails altogether. He swallowed, the taste of dust and despair coating his tongue. The air thickens. He could hear the rhythmic tap of Judge Eli Thorne's gavel echoing in his mind, a sound that had sealed his fate with cold, calculated precision. Thorne always polishes his spectacles before delivering a sentence, even when the room is already spotless. It was a small, peculiar habit, one that now seemed to hold the key to unlocking this nightmare. Was it vanity? Or something more sinister? He shifted his weight, the wooden planks of the jail cell groaning beneath him. The wind whistled through the bars, carrying the scent of sagebrush and the distant coyote howl, a mournful serenade for a life about to be unjustly taken. He needed to think. Clearly. The stagecoach robbery. The accusations. It all felt like a carefully orchestrated trap. But by whom? And why? He remembered the glint of sunlight on the judge's spectacles as the verdict was read. Guilty. Based on circumstantial evidence and the testimony of a single, shifty-eyed witness. The silence deepens, broken only by the deputy's heavy breathing. He was a decent man, Blackwood thought, just caught in the gears of a corrupt system. Did the deputy know of the judge's corruption? Would he risk his own neck to help? Josiah cleared his throat. "Deputy," he rasped, his voice hoarse from disuse. "That witness, the one who swore he saw me near the stagecoach, did he seem certain?" The deputy sighed, the sound heavy with resignation. "Certain enough for the judge, Mr. Blackwood. Certain enough." He shuffled his feet, the sound scuffing against the dirt floor. "He's a local, works odd jobs. Name of Silas, I think. Silas Dorinda. A nobody. Paid to lie. Or simply mistaken." The dust settles. He needed to find Silas. But how? Locked away in this cell. The deputy spoke again, his voice barely above a whisper. "There's talk. Just talk, mind you. That the judge has been buying up land cheap, land belonging to folks who suddenly find themselves in trouble with the law." Blackwood's mind raced. Thorne, enriching himself by preying on the vulnerable. It fit. But how did the stagecoach robbery connect? And where did he begin? "Deputy," he said, his voice gaining strength. "Is there anyone who might know Silas better? Someone who might know if he's prone to exaggeration?" The deputy hesitated. There's a boy. A Mexican boy. He runs errands for Silas sometimes. Name of Miguel. Lives on the outskirts of town. Miguel Dutch. A lifeline. But reaching him, that was the challenge. And time was running out. The shadows lengthened, stretching across the jail cell like grasping fingers. He glanced at the sliver of sky visible through the bars. Still light, but fading fast. What will it cost him now? "Deputy," he said, his voice firm. "I need to see Miguel." The deputy shook his head. "Can't do that, Mr. Blackwood. You know I can't." "Then tell me where to find him. Tell me, and I promise you I won't try to escape. I just need to talk to him." What if justice kills hope? The deputy remained silent, his face etched with doubt. Blackwood knew he was asking him to betray his duty, to risk everything. Was there enough good left in this man to make him take that risk? Finally, the deputy spoke, his voice barely audible. He lives in a small adobe hut, just past the creek, near the old Miller place. But you didn't hear that from me. Blackwood nodded, relief washing over him. It was a start. A sliver of hope in the encroaching darkness. But how to get out of this cell? He looked around, his eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. The silence deepens. He notices a loose stone in the wall. Small, almost unnoticeable. But perhaps, just perhaps, he speaks. Deputy, could you do a kindness? My throat is parched. A canteen of water would be a godsend. The deputy eyes him warily, but nods. I suppose that's not too much to ask. He leaves, his boots scuffing on the dirt floor, the metallic clang of keys fading into the distance. Who pays if he chooses wrong? This was his chance. He strains to reach the loose stone and dislodge it, creating a small opening. The dust settles, revealing a space just large enough to squeeze his hand through. He works quickly, his fingers raw and bleeding, widening the opening. It would take time, precious time. But it was his only hope. But what if the deputy returned before he was finished? Or worse, what if Miguel was lying? What if Silas was telling the truth? The air thickens. The rhythmic tap of the judge's gavel echoed in his mind. He could almost see Thorne polishing his spectacles, preparing to watch him hang. He hears the deputy returning. Time was up. He pushes the stone back into place, concealing his work, just as the deputy reappears, a canteen in hand. Blackwood takes a long, grateful swig of water. Thank you, deputy, he says, his voice sincere. I appreciate it. He hands the canteen back, his eyes meeting the deputy's. There's something else, he says. I need you to deliver a message. The deputy sighs. Mr. Blackwood. Is the price worth the trail ahead? Just listen, Blackwood interrupts. It's about the stagecoach robbery. About Judge Thorne. He tells the deputy what he suspects, about Thorne's land grabs, about the possibility that Silas was paid to lie. He explains about Miguel, about the need to find him, to hear his story. The deputy listens in silence, his face growing increasingly grim. When Blackwood finishes, he says nothing, simply turns and walks away, leaving Blackwood alone in the deepening shadows. He had planted the seed of doubt. Now, all he could do was wait. Wait and pray that the deputy would do the right thing. Wait and hope that he wouldn't hang before sunrise. But then, a new sound. A soft scratching at the bars. It wasn't the deputy. Someone else was there. Someone who shouldn't be. What was he about to risk? Justice in these parts ain't blind, son. It just sees what it wants to see. And right now, it wants to see you swing. Josiah Blackwood tasted grit. The wind, as always, whistling through the bars of his cell, carried the taste of the desert, the taste of his doom. He stared at the sliver of sky, visible through the high window. Hang before sunrise, or prove your innocence before the light fails altogether. He needed a miracle, or maybe just a horse. He ran a hand over his stubbled chin. He had less than, 10 hours? He needed to get to the Rodriguez ranch, That young boy, Miguel, was his only hope. Miguel had seen him. He'd been fixing Mrs. Abernathy's well, clear on the other side of the county when the stage was robbed. But the boy was scared. Judge Thorne held all the cards in Dust Devil Gulch, and Miguel's family wouldn't dare cross him. The silence deepened. Only the creaking gallows rope, a morbid lullaby carried on the wind, broke the stillness. Josiah pictured Miguel's face, the dark eyes wide with fear. He had to convince him. But how? And how could he get to the Rodriguez ranch, some 15 miles distant in time? The shadows lengthened. He called out, his voice hoarse. Deputy. Deputy Clem. A shuffling sound. Then Clem's face, round and perpetually worried, appeared at the bars. Josiah? What is it? You need something. I need to talk to someone. Urgently. It's about my case. Clem shifted his weight, the metal of his badge glinting in the fading light. The judge said no visitors. Said you're to be left alone to contemplate your sins. This ain't about sins, Clem. This is about justice. A boy saw me. Miguel Rodriguez tongued. He can clear my name. Is the price worth the trail ahead? Clem's face paled further. Rodriguez? You want me to go all the way out to the Rodriguez ranch? That's a long ride, Josiah. And Thorne wouldn't like it. Not one bit. It's 15 miles, Clem. My life is worth more than 15 miles. Think about it. You think I did this? You think I'm a stagecoach robber? Clem looked down at his boots. I don't know what to think, Josiah. I just follow orders. What if mercy ruins justice? Then follow the order of your conscience, Clem. Please. Just talk to Miguel. That's all I ask. The air thickened with the scent of approaching night. Clem hesitated, his hand resting on the butt of his revolver. All right, Josiah. I'll think about it. But I ain't promising nothing. Clem walked away, his footsteps echoing in the empty jailhouse. Josiah was left alone again, the creaking rope his only companion. Was that a flicker of doubt he'd seen in Clem's eyes, or just wishful thinking? How long would it take Clem to think about it? And even if he did agree, would Miguel testify? He tried to think. The boy was scared of Thorne. But what if? What if there was something else, something bigger than Thorne, that Miguel feared even more? The dust settled outside, muffling the sounds of the town. He remembered the hushed whispers he'd overheard in the saloon, rumors of the Rodriguez family harboring a fugitive. A younger brother, wanted for a brawl down in Silver Creek that ended with a man stabbed. If that brother was still at the ranch and Thorne found out, Josiah's stomach churned. He wouldn't. He couldn't. Could he? Was he really considering using Miguel's family's secret to save his own skin? And even if he did, would it be enough to sway Thorne, or would the judge simply use it as another lever to tighten his grip on the county? A distant coyote howl echoed across the plains. The night deepened, swallowing the last vestiges of light. Hours were turning to minutes. Sunrise and the hangman's noose were creeping closer. He had perhaps 9 hours left. The rhythmic tap of the judge's gavel echoed in his memory, a phantom sound that hammered at his resolve. He had to act. He had to risk everything. Clem! He shouted again, his voice cracking. Clem! I know something. Something about the Rodriguez family. Something Thorne would be very interested to hear. Clem reappeared, his face etched with suspicion. What is it, Josiah? What do you know? I know they're hiding someone. Someone wanted for a crime. A fugitive. Clem's eyes narrowed. You expect me to believe that? You're just trying to save your own neck. What will it cost him now? It's the truth, Clem. And Thorne knows it too, deep down. That's why he's so eager to see me hang. Because I know too much. Because I'm a threat to his whole rotten empire. The air thickened. Clem was silent, weighing his options. The risk of ignoring Josiah was immense. The risk of listening to him, perhaps even greater. But the possibility of exposing Thorne, that was a temptation few men in Dust Devil Gulch could resist. All right, Josiah, Clem said finally, his voice low. Tell me everything. But if you're lying to me, if this is just a trick, Josiah took a deep breath. He was about to cross a line he might never be able to uncross. But he had no choice. He had to expose Thorne, even if it meant sacrificing the Rodriguez family in the process. The boy's brother, he began, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. He's wanted for stabbing a man in Silver Creek. They're hiding him on the ranch, 15 miles south. You go there, you'll find him. Clem scribbled something in a small notebook. And you expect me to just ride out there and arrest him? Just like that? What if justice kills hope? No, Daddy. You tell Thorne. You tell him everything. And then, you watch his face. You watch how eager he is to bring that boy in. That's how you'll know I'm telling the truth. That's how you'll know Thorne is corrupt. Clem nodded slowly. All right. I'll tell him. But if this is a lie, Josiah, it's not a lie, Clem. It's the truth. And it's the only chance I've got. Can he reach it before the light dies? Clem turned and walked away, disappearing into the darkness. Josiah was alone again, the creaking rope a constant reminder of his impending doom. He had set the wheels in motion. But had he saved himself, or had he just condemned an innocent family to the same fate that awaited him? The Rodriguez ranch was still 15 miles away, but sunrise felt much closer. What if Thorne, instead of acting on the information, simply used it as a pretext to arrest the entire Rodriguez family, silencing Miguel forever? What if Thorne, instead of acting on the information, simply used it as a pretext to arrest the entire Rodriguez family, silencing Miguel forever? The rhythmic tap of the judge's gavel mimicked the frantic hammer in Josiah Blackwood's chest. Dust furred his tongue, gritty like despair. Judge Thorne, righteous fury etched deep, peered over his spectacles. Anything to say, Blackwood, before sentence is passed? Josiah swallowed. I didn't do it, Judge. I swear. Weak words, lost in the heavy room. Thorne saw only cold certainty. What if justice kills hope? Shadows lengthened. Deputies watched, expectant. The walk. The rope. Thorne cleared his throat, gravel on stone. He lifted the gavel. Wait. A thin, sharp voice. A young Mexican boy stood in the doorway, trembling. I saw him. Blackwood. He was far from the stagecoach. Miles stood out. What if mercy ruins justice? Air thickened. Thorne's face darkened. Silence, boy. Court of law, not fanciful tales. It's the truth, senor. on my mother's grave. I was tending sheep. He rode past, towards Widow McCready's ranch. 20 miles from the robbery. A fragile hope flickered. The boy's testimony. Salvation Tortco. But fear etched on the boy's face, darting towards the judge's flanking men, known for persuasion. Who pays if he chooses wrong? Odraga, Thorne boomed. Mistaken, or paid to lie. A withering stare. Understand the consequences of perjury, child. The boy hesitated. Thorne was breaking him, silencing him. He speaks the truth, Judge, Josiah said, stronger now. The brand on my horse, the color of my saddle. Ask him, is the price worth the trail ahead? Thorne ignored him, fixed on the boy. Did someone promise you something for your lies? The boy looked from Thorne to Josiah, confusion and terror in his eyes. Conscience versus fear. The boy opened his mouth, but before he could speak, shouts erupted. Hooves, gunfire. What will it cost him now? What in tarnation? Thorne roared, composure shattered. A deputy rushed in, pale. Judge McAllister, gang. Riding the town. Thorne's eyes narrowed. McAllister? What does he want? Can he reach it before the light dies? Don't know, Judge. Shooting up everything. Bank, general store. Josiah saw his chance. Chaos, escape, what? Gaia could leave the boy. Save his own neck, but the boy was in even greater danger. A distant coyote howl mocked him. Flee or protect? Secure the prisoner. Thorne barked. Find out what McAllister wants. Now. He turned to the boy, eyes like ice. We'll continue this later. Deputies dragged Josiah back. He struggled. Warn the boy. Leave him alone, Judge. He's just a kid. What will it cost him now? Thorne ignored him, focused on the chaos. Iron clanged shut. Trapped. He peered through the bars. Thorne vanished into the crowd. He had to act. An hour maybe before Thorne returned, if the McAllister gang hadn't burned the town to the ground. Wind carried smoke and fear. He rattled the bars, testing their strength. Old, sturdy. He needed something. A rusty bucket, a tattered blanket, a loose stone in the wall. The stone, his only hope. Pry it loose, weaken the bars? Even if he escaped, where would he go? He worked on the stone, raw fingers. Each grain, a small victory. Minutes stretched. What if justice kills hope? The sun dipped, casting shadows. Widow McCready's ranch 20 miles away. He had to reach the boy first. How much time? How many more miles controlled by nightfall? Josiah felt the grit of the cell floor against his cheek as he spat. Then, it's a damn shame justice has such poor eyesight, Judge. Thorne chuckled, a dry, rasping sound like a snake shedding its skin. He adjusted his spectacles, the lenses gleaming even in the dim light filtering through the barred window. Sentimentality is a luxury a judge cannot afford, Blackwood. Especially not when confronted with a low-down stagecoach robber. He turned and the rhythmic tap of his gavel echoed as he exited. The dust settles, the air thickens. Josiah pushed himself up, the creaking gallows rope a constant reminder of the miles closing in. He had maybe 12 hours of daylight left, maybe 60 miles to the border if he could get free. 60 miles of hard riding, 60 miles to outrun a noose. He rattled the bars. Useless. The lock was thick, the iron unforgiving. Wind whistling through the jail bars. He called out, his voice hoarse. "Anyone out there?" "I need help." Silence answered him, save for the distant coyote howl. Hours crawled by. The shadows lengthened. The only visitor was a gruff deputy who brought him a plate of beans and stale bread. Josiah barely touched it. His stomach was a knot of fear and desperation. He had to get out. He had to reach the Mexican boy Miguel before it was too late. But how? What if Miguel, terrified of Thorne, refused to testify even if Josiah managed to reach him? The silence deepens. He lay on his back, staring at the ceiling, trying to think. There had to be a way. He remembered the way Thorne had polished his spectacles, even though they were already spotless. A nervous habit. Or something more. The afternoon sun slanted through the window, casting long shadows across the cell floor. He had lost track of time. He must have burned through at least 10 miles worth of daylight. Now closer to 50 miles to the border. He had to act, and fast. He stood up, his legs stiff from disuse. He walked to the bars again, this time calling out in a different tone, a tone of resignation. "Deputy. Deputy, I need to talk to you. What if mercy ruins justice?" The deputy, a man named Hanks, appeared after a few minutes, his face etched with boredom. "What is it, Blackwood?" "Ready to confess?" "No confession," Josiah said, his voice low. "Just a request. A final request." Hanks grunted. "Spit it out. Is the price worth the trail ahead?" "I have some valuables. Hidden. I want to tell someone where they are, so they can be retrieved after it's all over. I don't want them falling into the wrong hands." Hank's eyes narrowed. "Valuables, huh? What kind of valuables?" Josiah shrugged. "Enough to make it worth someone's while. But I only trust one person to know. Judge Thorne. What if justice kills hope?" Hanks hesitated. "The judge ain't got time for this." "Tell him it's about the stagecoach robbery," Josiah said, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "Tell him I know something he doesn't. Something about the money." Hank's eyes gleamed with greed. He couldn't resist the possibility of a reward. "I'll see what I can do." He walked away, the keys jingling on his belt. Can he reach it before the light dies? Josiah leaned against the bars, his heart pounding. It was a long shot, but it was his only chance. He had to get Thorne here. He had to find out what the judge was hiding behind those polished spectacles. But what if Thorne saw through his ruse? What if he simply ignored Josiah's request and left him to hang? The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and red. The shadows lengthened, stretching across the town like grasping fingers. Another 5 miles eaten away. 45 miles to the border. The wind whistling through the jail bars. Hanks returned, his face flushed. "The judge will see you. But don't try anything, Blackwood. He's got guards posted." Thorne entered the cell, his face impassive. He was flanked by 2 burly men, their hands resting on their gun belts. He adjusted his spectacles, the lenses reflecting the dying light. "You wanted to see me, Blackwood." Thorne's voice was cold, devoid of emotion. "Who pays if he chooses wrong?" "I do, Judge," Josiah said, meeting Thorne's gaze. I have information about the stagecoach robbery. Information I haven't shared with anyone. Information? What kind of information? Thorne's eyes narrowed, but Josiah detected a flicker of interest behind them. Information about where the money is hidden, Josiah said, and about who else was involved. What will it cost him now? Thorne leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Who else? That's for me to know, and for you to find out, Josiah said. But I'll only tell you if you agree to one thing. And what is that? Thorne asked, his voice dangerous. Is the price worth the trail ahead? I want to speak to Miguel, Josiah said. The boy who saw the robbery. I want to hear his testimony for myself. Thorne's face hardened. That's impossible. The boy is unavailable. Unavailable? Or silenced? Josiah challenged. You want the money, Judge? You want to know who else was involved? Then you bring me Miguel. Otherwise, you can watch me swing knowing the truth dies with me. What if mercy ruins justice? The air thickens. Thorne stared at Josiah, his eyes burning with anger. The rhythmic tap of the judge's gavel seemed to echo in Josiah's mind. He polished his spectacles furiously. You're playing a dangerous game, Blackwood, Thorne said, his voice low and menacing. I have nothing to lose, Judge, Josiah replied, his voice steady. But you do. You have everything to lose. Will Thorne call his bluff? Or will he risk exposing his own corruption to silence Josiah forever? How many more miles of daylight are left? Another 5 gone. Only 40 miles between Josiah and the border. The shadows lengthened, reaching like skeletal fingers across the dusty floor of the jail cell. Josiah Blackwood stared through the bars, watching the last sliver of sun bleed out behind the jagged peaks. Hang before sunrise, or prove your innocence before the light failed altogether. He reckoned maybe 5 hours of daylight left, if that. 5 hours to find a ghost. Wind whistled through the bars, a mournful tune mirroring the despair creeping into his bones. 5 hours to travel, convince, prove. He swallowed, the dust settling like grit. Mateo, the young Mexican boy, his only hope. But Mateo was scared. Judge Thorne's long arm reached far. The rhythmic tap of Thorne's gavel echoed, a relentless percussion of doom. How far was Mateo's family ranch? 15, maybe 20 miles. 20 miles on a stolen swayback that smelled of manure, with Thorne's men surely combing the territory. Near impossible. Still, his only chance. He rattled the bars, the sound metallic and desperate. Deputy. I need to speak with you again. Can he reach it before the light dies? The deputy, burly with a perpetual squint, ambled over, keys jangling. Waste of breath, Blackwood. Judge's orders are. No more visitors. It's about the stagecoach robbery, Josiah pressed, voice low but urgent. I remember something. Important. A lie, but a necessary one. The deputy hesitated, squint deepening. Greed? Boredom? Spit it out then. What if mercy ruins justice? I need to see the judge, Josiah said, eyes fixed on the deputies. Information that could clear my name. But it's delicate. Needs to be discussed in private. The deputy scratched his chin, considering. Judge ain't one for delicate. Tell him it concerns the location of the stolen gold, Josiah gambled. Who pays if he chooses wrong? The deputy's eyes widened slightly. Silence. Wait here. The deputy disappeared. Josiah leaned against the bars, heart pounding. Had he bought time? Or dug a deeper hole? Minutes stretched into an eternity. A distant coyote howl punctuated the silence, a chilling reminder of the wilderness. He could almost feel the noose tightening. Is the price worth the trail ahead? Finally, the deputy returned, face unreadable. Judge will see you. But don't try anything stupid. My rifle's loaded, and I'm a damn good shot. Josiah nodded, muscles tense. Escorted through the dimly lit hallways, the gavel's tap replaced by the heavy thud of his boots. The judge's office, opulent, a stark contrast to the jail. Mahogany desk, leather chairs, heavy velvet curtain. Judge Eli Thorne sat behind the desk, impassive, spectacles perched. Polishing them with a silk cloth, even though the room was spotless. Nervous take? Display of power. Blackwood, Thorne said, voice a low rumble. This urgent information? It's about the gold, Your Honor, Josiah said, meeting his gaze. I know where it's hidden. Another lie to keep Thorne engaged. Thorne stopped polishing, eyes narrowing. And why would you tell me this? Just hours before your execution? What if justice kills hope? Because I want a deal, Josiah said. My freedom for the location of the gold. Thorne chuckled, dry, humorless. You're in no position to make demands, Blackwood. But I am in a position to deny you the gold, Josiah countered. And with the election coming up, I imagine you'd like to recover it before anyone starts asking questions about its disappearance. What will it cost him now? Thorne's face darkened. You presume too much, Blackwood. Do I? Josiah said, raising an eyebrow. Or am I simply offering you a way out of a rather uncomfortable situation? The air thickens. Silence deepens. Thorne steepled his fingers, eyes fixed on Josiah. Very well, he said finally. I'm listening. Who pays if he chooses wrong? I need a horse, a fast one, Josiah said. And a day to lead you to the gold. A day is too long, Thorne said. You have until midnight. And I'll be sending men with you to ensure your cooperation. Midnight.key. That shaved off precious hours. Could he make it to Mateo's ranch and back with Thorne's men breathing down his neck? No. Mateo's safety came first. He'd have to lead them to the hiding place, the one he'd heard whispers about years ago. Hope it was still there. Can he reach it before the light dies? Agreed, Josiah said, voice firm despite the knot of fear. But I choose the route. Thorne nodded slowly. Agreed. But understand this, Blackwood. If you try to deceive me, if you try to escape, you will regret it. Severely. He was escorted back to his cell, the deputy's rifle, a constant presence. Within the hour, mounted on a decent-looking mare, flanked by two of Thorne's men, faces grim. The dust settles as they rode out of Dust Devil Gulch, the setting sun casting long, ominous shadows. He had, at most, 6 hours left. To fool a corrupted judge, to save his own neck. What if mercy ruins justice? Josiah tasted grit. He spat. Reckon I'll show her then. The deputy, Finch, chuckled, dry as tumbleweed. You and what army, Blackwood? Less than a day and that boy ain't gonna talk. Thorne's got him watched close. Josiah ignored him, latching onto that sliver of hope. A boy. Miles away. A start. How far to the Rodriguez ranch? Can he reach it before the light dies? Finch scratched his chin. East? Near the Rio Puerco? 20 miles, give or take. Even if you get there, they ain't rolling out no welcome wagon for a stage robber. Especially with Thorne's feelings about folks south of the border. 20 miles. Sun sinking. Shadows lengthened inside the jail cell. Josiah gripped the bars, the iron biting cold. He had to get to that boy. But how? Finch was no fool. Thorne's men would be watching. Is the price worth the trail ahead? Finch, Josiah said, "Lo, you ever wonder why Thorne's so keen on seeing me hang? We ain't exactly bosom buddies." Finch shrugged. He's the judge. You broke the law. Or maybe, Josiah pressed, maybe he's got something to hide. Something I stumbled on. Finch's eyes narrowed. A flicker. What are you saying? Maybe, Josiah said, the judge ain't as righteous as he pretends. Maybe you should consider whose side you're really on before you let an innocent man swing. Could he plant doubt? A chance, however small. Or just wasting time? The wind whistled through the bars, a mournful lament. Finch shifted. You're grasping. But the Thorne is powerful. And jumpy lately. More than usual. Jumpy enough to look the other way for a few minutes. Josiah whispered, what if justice kills hope? Finch hesitated, gaze darting. Silence deepened. I can't. I got a family. Understood. Then tell me this, Finch. Does Thorne always polish his spectacles before handing down a sentence? Finch frowned. Yeah. Why? What will it cost him now? Even when the room's clean. Yeah. So? Bye. So, Josiah said, a glimmer forming. Maybe it ain't about justice. Maybe it's control. Saying exactly what he wants to see. What if mercy ruins justice? The air thickened. Finch wrestled. Outside, the coyote howled on the wind. The dust settles. He pushed harder. Finch, that boy, McGill, the one who saw me? Thorne's men will make his life hell if he testifies. Might even hurt his family. He paused. You gonna let that happen? Who pays if he chooses wrong? Finch looked away, conflicted. He knew Josiah was right. Thorne's justice was cruel. All right, Finch said, strained. All right. I'll look the other way. For 5 minutes. That's all I can do. 5 minutes, then I'm coming back. 5 minutes. 20 miles. Impossible. But still. Thank you, Finch. What will it cost him now? Finch unlocked the cell, the clang echoing. Don't make me regret this, Blackwood. Josiah stepped out, eyes scanning. A weapon. Anything. He saw a broom. Not much, but it would have to do. He grabs it, then hesitates. Wait, bite. My knife. Did Thorne take it? Finch sighs. Locked in the strongbox. Too risky. Can he reach it before the light dies? Josiah nodded, A flicker of disappointment, then hardened resolve. 5 minutes, knife or no. Go, Finch urged. Before I change my mind. Josiah slipped out of the jailhouse into the shadows. Wind whipped, scent of dust and sage. 5 minutes, maybe less, before Finch came looking. A head start on 20 miles. He ran. Is the price worth the trail ahead? He needed a horse. The livery was on the other side of town, maybe half a mile away. But getting there meant risking running into Thorne's men. Was there a faster way? Another horse? He remembered old man Hemlock, the prospector, who kept a mule in a small shed behind his shack. Hemlock was deaf as a post, and usually half blind, too. It was a long shot, but it was better than nothing. Josiah changed direction, heading towards the edge of town, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Each stride was a gamble against the ticking clock, against the rising sun that would bring his doom. The shadows lengthened, swallowing the town in darkness. He passed the saloon, faint piano music and boisterous laughter spilling out into the night. It felt like another world, a world he might never see again. He reached Hemlock's shack, a dilapidated structure that looked like it could collapse at any moment. He crept around to the back, the broom held tight in his hand. The shed door was locked with a flimsy padlock. Josiah raised the broom and brought it down on the lock with all his might. The wood splintered, the lock gave way. What if justice kills hope? He slipped inside, the air thick with the smell of hay and manure. He could hear the mule shifting in its stall, its breath heavy in the darkness. "Easy there, girl," Josiah whispered, his voice soothing. "I ain't gonna hurt you." He found a saddle and bridle hanging on the wall. They were old and worn, but they would have to do. He quickly saddled the mule, his fingers fumbling in the darkness. What will it cost him now? He led the mule out of the shed and into the night. He swung himself into the saddle, his muscles aching. He kicked the mule gently, urging it forward. The mule hesitated, then started to walk, its gait slow and awkward. 20 miles. He needed to make every mile count. But on a stubborn mule? The air thickens. He urged the mule into a trot, then a canter. It was slow going, but it was better than nothing. He rode hard, pushing the mule to its limit. He glanced back at the town. No sign of pursuit yet. But he knew it wouldn't be long before Thorne's men realized he was gone. What if mercy ruins justice? How many miles had he covered? 5? Maybe 6? The sun would be rising in a few hours. He needed to reach the Rodriguez ranch before then. He needed to reach Miguel. But what if Miguel was too afraid to testify? What if Thorne had already gotten to him? And what if, even if Miguel did testify, it wasn't enough to prove his innocence? The silence deepens. Josiah swallowed, the grit in his throat a poor substitute for courage. He looked at the boy, Miguel, who stood just outside the jailhouse window, face pale in the fading light. Justice. A cruel jest in this forsaken corner of the territory. "They'll kill you, Miguel," Josiah rasped, the creaking gallows rope a phantom sensation at the back of his neck. Thorne's men. Animals. Miguel shook his head, his dark eyes fixed on Josiah's. "It is the truth, senor. You were at the cantina, miles from the stage road. I saw you. But my family," he trailed off, fear etched on his young features. Josiah knew the unspoken words. Miguel's family sheltered someone, a petty thief, nothing like the accusations leveled against him. Thorne would use it, twist it, crush them all. The wind whistled through the jail bars, carrying sage and dust, a promise of a cold night. Too many miles to sunrise. Is the price worth the trail ahead? There has to be another way, Josiah said, more to himself than Miguel. He glanced at the western horizon. The sun bled crimson, painting the clouds with the color of blood. Would Miguel risk his life and his family for a stranger facing the hangman's noose? A rhythmic tap echoed from the direction of the courthouse, Judge Thorne's gavel. Josiah knew that sound, the sound that had prematurely buried so many. "Go home, Miguel," Josiah said, resignation heavy in his voice. "Tell your family. Tell them I understand." But Miguel didn't move, a small figure silhouetted against the dying light, his silence a weight. What if mercy ruins justice? Josiah ran a hand through his hair, dust settling like a shroud. He had to think, find a way out, not just for himself, but for Miguel and his family. Thorne couldn't win. The shadows lengthened. He thought of Thorne, of the way he always polished his spectacles before sentencing. A ritual, a performance, a nervous tick. A signal? He remembered Silas, Thorne's hulking deputy, always lurking in his shadow. Fiercely loyal or fiercely afraid. What did Silas know? The distant coyote howl pierced the twilight, a mournful echo of Josiah's despair. 10 miles remained until the gallows. He called out to Miguel, his voice barely a whisper. "Did you see anyone else near the cantina that day?" "Anyone? Suspicious?" Miguel hesitated, his eyes darting nervously towards the shadows. "There was a man. A stranger. Black coat, even in the heat. He spoke with the bartender, asking about the stagecoach route. A stranger. A slim thread, but something. But was it enough? Did you hear what they said?" Josiah pressed, hope pounding. Miguel shook his head. Only that he was heading towards Black Mesa. Said he had business there. What will it cost him now? Black Mesa Tall. 20 miles further west, closer to the border. A haven for outlaws, where Thorne's influence might not reach. Could he reach Black Mesa in time to clear his name? Could he even convince the stranger to come forward, knowing the risks? The air thickens, heavy with wood smoke and fear. Who pays if he chooses wrong? Josiah knew he had to escape. His only chance. He looked around the small cell, searching for anything to give him an edge. The cot, the bucket, the loose floorboard near the back wall. He focused on the floorboard, worn and splintered. A slight give when he walked over it. A long shot, but all he had. What if justice kills hope? He spoke to Miguel again, his voice low and urgent. "I need you to do something for me. Are you brave enough?" Miguel nodded, fear and determination mixed. "Tell me what to do, senor." The shadows lengthen, grasping fingers across the dusty floor. Can he reach it before the light dies? Josiah explained his plan, barely audible above the wind. A desperate plan, fraught with risk, but his only hope. He needed Miguel to create a diversion, draw Thorne's men away, even for a few precious minutes. Time to work on that floorboard. Could he trust Miguel? Would it be enough to overcome Thorne? Josiah paused. Forget the diversion. It's too dangerous for you. He looked at the small, determined face. Tell me everything this stranger said to the bartender. Every detail. Miguel squared his small shoulders. I will do it, senor. What if justice kills hope? Josiah felt a pang of guilt, focusing on the task at hand. He had to survive. The rhythmic tap of the judge's gavel seemed to grow louder. A constant reminder. Dawn was coming, and with it, the hangman's noose. 10 miles stood. All right, Miguel, Josiah said, his voice firm. Tell me everything. Is the price worth the trail ahead? The dust settles as he listens. The air thickens, heavy with anticipation. The shadows lengthen, obscuring the boy's face. What if mercy ruins justice? Josiah swallowed, the grit in his throat mirroring the dust devils swirling outside the jailhouse window. Thorne, spectacles gleaming even in the dim light filtering through the bars, was a viper coiled and ready to strike. Miles, Josiah rasped, his voice rough from disuse and fear. How far to prove I was elsewhere? The judge's smile didn't reach his eyes. 70 miles, Blackwood. The distance to the Lazy J Ranch. And 70 miles back. 140 miles, all before the sun kisses the horizon. You think that boy, that Reyes, will ride all that way to save your neck? What will it cost him now? The wind whistled through the jail bars, a mournful tune that echoed the dread creeping into Josiah's bones. 70 miles. It was a fool's errand. But what choice did he have? He will, Josiah declared, trying to inject steel into his voice. He's got more honor than you ever will, Thorne. Thorne chuckled, a dry, rasping sound. Honor? In this territory, Blackwood, honor is a luxury few can afford, especially when weighed against self-preservation. He tapped his gavel, the rhythmic sound a death knell in the small space. Sheriff, see to it he's ready. Dawn waits for no man. What if mercy ruins justice? The shadows lengthened in the jail cell as the sheriff, a burly man with weary eyes, unlocked the door. Let's go, Josiah. Got to hitch you to that fastest horse. Outside, the dust settled momentarily, revealing the vast expanse of the New Mexico territory. 70 miles. It felt like 1,000. As the sheriff saddled a wiry Mustang, Josiah looked toward the horizon. Could Reyes be found? Would he risk everything to speak the truth? And even if he did, would it be enough to sway Thorne's iron grip on Dust Devil Gulch? The ride was a blur of pounding hooves and swirling dust. Josiah pushed the Mustang relentlessly, the animal's breath coming in ragged gasps. Every mile devoured was a victory, but the setting sun was a constant reminder of the dwindling time. After what felt like an eternity, the Lazy J Ranch shimmered into view. A cluster of adobe buildings baking under the harsh sun. The air thickened with anticipation as Josiah dismounted, his legs stiff and aching. He found Reyes tending to a small vegetable garden, his face etched with worry. Reyes, Josiah called out, his voice hoarse. I need your help. The boy straightened, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. I know, Senor Blackwood. My father told me. But Judge Thorne, he's a dangerous man. I know, Josiah said, his gaze unwavering. But an innocent man is about to hang. Will you speak the truth? Reyes looked down at the parched earth, his face a battleground of conflicting emotions. The silence deepened, broken only by the distant coyote howl. Was the boy's fear too great? Had Josiah gambled everything on a boy's courage? I saw you, Senor Blackwood, Reyes said finally, his voice barely a whisper. You were miles away mending fences. I swear it. Relief washed over Josiah, but he knew this was only the first hurdle. Then you must tell the judge. You must tell everyone. What if justice kills hope? Reyes shook his head, his eyes filled with terror. I can't. Thorne's men. They'll hurt my family. My father. They know he hides a man from the law. Josiah's heart sank. He knew the risks the Reyes family was taking. They were harboring a fugitive, a young man accused of stealing horses. Exposing Thorne meant exposing them. I understand, Josiah said, his voice heavy with regret. But without your testimony, I'm a dead man. Is the price worth the trail ahead? The moral price of victory was becoming agonizingly clear. To save himself, he would have to condemn an innocent family. Was justice worth such a sacrifice? How far was he willing to go to save his own skin? He gripped Reyes' shoulder. I won't ask you to do that, not if it endangers your family. He paused, thinking fast. But I, willing, ask you to ride with me back to Dust Devil Gulch. Let Thorne hang me, if that's his will. I won't let an innocent family suffer because of me. The shadows lengthened further as Josiah wrestled with his conscience. He could ride back to Dust Devil Gulch empty-handed, accepting his fate. Or he could force Reyes to testify, knowing the consequences. There has to be another way, Josiah muttered, desperation creeping into his voice. The sun dipped lower, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Time was running out. The miles back to Dust Devil Gulch stretched before him like an endless desert. What about the man your father is hiding? Josiah asked, his mind racing. Who is he? Can he reach it before the light dies? Reyes hesitated, his eyes darting nervously. He's my cousin, Miguel. He didn't steal those horses, Senor Blackwood. He was framed. A new possibility flickered in Josiah's mind. Could Miguel's situation be leveraged? Could they expose Thorne's corruption by revealing the truth about the horse theft? But would anyone believe them? And what if Miguel was truly guilty? The air thickened with tension as Josiah waited for Reyes' answer. The fate of two families, and his own life, hung in the balance. If Miguel can prove his innocence, Josiah said, will you testify? Reyes looked at his cousin, hidden somewhere in the ranch house, then back at Josiah. I don't know, he confessed. It's a big risk. Thorne's reach is long. The sun was nearly gone now. Dusk was rapidly approaching, and the first stars were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. 60 miles. 60 miles to ride, 60 miles to convince a judge and a town of the truth. 60 miles, and the rope waited. Josiah knew he was asking the impossible. But he also knew that inaction meant certain death. We have to try, he said, his voice filled with urgency. For Miguel, for your family, for me. Who pays if he chooses wrong? Would they take the leap of faith? And even if they did, could they reach Dust Devil Gulch in time to cheat the Hangman's noose?